Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Life Sciences Grade 10. My name is Dutuzile Gubega, and that is my email address. Today, we are moving on to a new topic, which is cell division. So at the end of this lesson, we should know basically what happens during the cell cycle, guys. Remember, we kept on mentioning DNA, mitosis, cell division, genetic information, all of that. Now we are going to understand exactly all the processes that happen during cell division. So the entire cell cycle, the steps that take place. Ne? So in this lesson, in this unit, the entire unit, not just today's lesson, when we are done with the topic of, during the entire lesson where we learn about the cell division, we're going to learn how we are able to replicate our cells through the process of cell division called what? Mitosis. So mitosis is a process of cell division. So we've always been mentioning that, right? So you have an idea, a pretty good idea what we mean when we mean cell division. We'll get into details. Mitosis is absolutely vital to the survival of all organisms, as without it, unicellular organisms will not be able to reproduce, and multicellular organisms would not be able to grow or heal after damage. However, uncontrolled mitosis can result in cancer, which is a potentially fatal condition. So you remember, guys, when we started with the topic of cells, which are the basic unit of life, last 2 weeks back, I think, we learned that it would be a cell, ne? Let me write that right, because I won't be able to draw. So you'd be a cell, and then groups of cells together would form a tissue. And then groups of tissues together, they'd be specialized into different types of organs, right? So that's what we mean when we say here that people or multicellular organisms wouldn't be able to grow or heal after damage. First of all, what happens? There's multiple steps whereby mitosis occurs to differentiate when we start maybe from the reproductive system, when the baby is still it's just still a fetus in the womb, then it develops. Then those bunch of cells, you can see it first, it's that zygote where it's those bunch of cells. But as time progresses, then from those bunch of cells, I mean, just think about it, from a sperm cell and an egg cell, 9 months later, you have an entire human being. But those were just cells which got together and differentiated through various processes of mitosis and meiosis, which we'll study later. And then what happened then? They were able to differentiate and form this organism now, which has eyes, hands, a heart, all of those things just from 2 cells. So that's what would happen. That process of mitosis allows the cell division to occur, and then the different cells would form and become the tissue, and then those tissues brought together will form an organ. So that's what we mean. Without the process of mitosis, that wouldn't be possible. But for unicellular organisms, they wouldn't be able to reproduce. If we had unicellular organisms, they wouldn't be able to reproduce because they need to divide, and through some other process, it's a unicellular. It would need, others would go through a process of a binary fusion, whereby that one whole cell will split into 2, and then now you have 2 daughter cells. That's how their reproduction usually takes place. It wouldn't be possible without the process of mitosis, which is that cell division. So you see the importance of that. But now, uncontrolled, that process of mitosis should always be controlled. Uncontrolled mitosis would then lead to conditions whereby someone has cancer. Why? Because it's cell division, right? Let's say to make what? Let's say, what can I say? Skin. You have certain specialized cells which form certain tissues that would form the skin organ, right? But if then there's too much uncontrolled mitosis, the cell is dividing uncontrollably, then you would then form a tumor whereby then someone has a cancer. So you understand where cancer comes from. It's when the cell division is just uncontrolled. It's replicating too much. So even cells that are not needed, then now they form a tumor, then they block other important processes in the cell. That's why when, especially with the breast cancers, they say you need to monitor your breast. If you find a lump, get it tested quickly. And if it's found that it can cause tumor, it can cause a cancer, it's removed, you know. It's for those things, because if it's not controlled at early stages, it can really divide. Those cells there can really divide until it's bad for your whole breast, that they would need to remove your entire breast. And if you find cancer at a later stage, whereby probably stage 4, when it's too late, it's difficult. It's almost impossible. Other people don't even survive that, even though they'd undergo chemo, but others would eventually just die because it's too uncontrollable. So cell division, when it's controlled, we understand its importance, but it does happen that it's uncontrolled and it causes various problems. In this chapter, we will review the stages of mitosis in plants and animal cells. We will then discuss how cancer is caused and some treatments that are available. So we'll first understand exactly what happens during the process of mitosis, so that by the time we learn about cancer, we can clearly see what actually went wrong. You understand? It's like a process whereby what happens? You are trying to bake your muffins. Yes, you're baking them. But then if you put too much of maybe flour or too much of milk, then it won't run so as smoothly as you're supposed to run. So it's things like that. It's a normal process gone wrong somehow. There was a defect. We will learn all about that today. So if you not today, in this entire lesson that we are starting today, we are starting it today, but we will learn about it as we progress. So if you've ever been interested to find out about cancer and how it happens, or how it comes about that just from an egg cell and a stem cell, we have an entire human organism, then this is a great topic for you. The cell cycle is divided into two main stages. Remember, there's two main stages. You have the interphase and the mitotic phase. So there are two. During interphase, the cells grow in size and replicate their DNA. So in your cell, where in the cell does the DNA replication take place? In the nucleus, remember that? So that's where all these processes will take place. They will grow in size and then they will replicate. That means replication is a, it's like what? It's a copy, you're making a copy. So you have, let's say the DNA strands, you have A, T, C, G. That is one strand of DNA, right? It's AT, then it pairs with T, A, G, C. It's like this, it's a DNA strand. This one, it's a DNA strand. They are binding together. What then happens during the replication phase? Replication is when you want to produce a copy of this DNA that we have. So what will happen? It's processes that we will still learn about as we go, but these bonds here will break. And then a copy will be formed so that other strands can bind with these ones. So it's strand 1, strand 2. Then there'll be nucleotides that will come bind with each of these strands. Each of these strands, they will come bind there. A, T, G, C, C, G. Then you see now you've got two exact copies which were coming from this original one. So that's the process of replication. You have one person here, you replicate, now you have two. That is the process there. That's the process that happens in the interphase stage. DNA replicates and grows in size. Chromosomes are present in the nuclei of all cells and consist of two chromatids joined by a centromere. I'll show you you'll learn diagram again, but this is a typical diagram of a chromosome. I even showed it to you the other time when we learned that there are 3 chromosomes, but we'll see them. They are joined, and they are joined by a centromere. Centromere is this one, the dot there at the center. Mitosis is the process by which cells distribute their replicated DNA to 2 daughter cells. So these DNA, it is replicated, né? But what will happen? they will be distributed to two daughter cells. So if this one DNA, the one in red, was in one cell, then during cell division, you will now have two cells. You see, this was one cell, now you'll have two cells. Here you have the original one. Now in the two cells, you'll have the replicas of the original one. So you'll have this one in the one cell and the second one in the other cell. Those are the daughter cells. The mitotic phase consists of 5 stages. We will go through all these 5 stages. There is the prophase, there is the metaphase, there is the anaphase, there is the telophase, and the cytokinesis. So 5 of them. P, you can use the abbreviations. I always used to use the abbreviations to remember. P, M, A, T, C. Just to help you remember the order. However ways, whatever tricks you really have to help you remember the work. But this worked for me, so at least you understand when you say P, Met, C, then that's the order. It's prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and cytokinesis. But we will go through each of them individually and you'll understand exactly what happens. Mitosis is the means of reproduction in unicellular organisms that undergo asexual reproduction. That's what I mentioned when I said for organisms that undergo asexual reproduction, like binary fission, it will be the one original cell and will divide into two. Then what will result there? You have two daughter cells, which have 100% the same DNA as the mother cell. Exactly the same DNA as the mother cell because it just divided just like that. And then mitosis is required for growth and repair in multicellular organisms. So note the differences here. In unicellular organisms, the main point of mitosis is for reproduction. But in multicellular organisms, it is required for growth and repair. Cancer is a disease of uncontrolled mitosis. And like I said, we will learn all about that and what I mean by that. Cancer is caused by carcinogens and is treated through surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy. So carcinogens, they vary. Can be too much exposure to UV light or the sunlight, or for lungs cancer, it could be exposure to that smoke, you know. There are different ones. These are cancer-causing agents. Whenever you hear this word, you know whatever product that you are using, if it is this, if it's warning against this, then it means those are cancer-causing agents. So it can be treated through surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy. Surgery is when they are going to remove the tumor. It's still controllable at this stage. Radiation is when they are trying to kill off maybe the other cells that they couldn't get to. So probably, let's say you have your, what can I draw? I can't draw a heart. I'll just draw a heart like this, but you know I'm talking about that heart, the original heart. Forgive me. Anyway, let's say you've got okay, no, let me draw a different thing. Let me draw a breast. Either way, pen, you've got your boob here. Okay, this is your breast. Let's say there's cancer here, which has grown this much. This here is the cancer. Okay, so during a surgery, they will come to cut off that cancer. They'll try and cut off this cancer, né? And maybe they won't be able to get through to that part, that portion over there. So this one will be removed, yes, but only smaller pieces were left of the tumor. So to make sure they finish it off, they can then take you under radiation to kill off those other ones. So it happens in various processes. I hope it's clear. Is it clear for now? Are you okay? Any questions before I continue? Okay, if there are no questions then, the cell cycle, now we're delving into the cell cycle. This is a series of events that take place in a cell that result in DNA replication and cell division. So it's a series of events. You can even see the word cycle. These are series of events. It's a cycle. There's a start and an end, and then, it repeats again and again and again. There are two main stages in the cell cycle. The first stage is interphase, during which the cell grows and replicates its DNA. So this you should know by now. I've mentioned it for the second time now. Two main stages. You have interphase and you have the second one, which is mitotic phase. Interphase, the cell is growing and it's replicating its DNA. And second phase, which is the mitotic phase, also called the M phase, during which the cell divides. Now it's the cell dividing. Remember, mitosis is cell division. During the mitotic stage, the cell is dividing, and then after dividing, it will transfer one copy of its DNA to two identical daughter cells. That diagram I showed you here, you have the original cell, there was replication that happened there, then it will split, the other one will go here, the other one will go there. We'll see it properly. So here, this shows the sequence of events in the cell leading to division of a cell into two daughter cells. It is known as the cell cycle. So you have these ones here. This is interphase. You see interphases out there. There is interphase. Then inside you've got other phases. Ne? G1 phase, the G1 phase here in purple. The cell metabolically active. The cell here is metabolically active. It duplicates organelles and cytosolic components and starts by replicating centrosomes. So that's where the part is. It's growing and it's replicating. Then then you go to what? The S phase. S phase, DNA is replicated. DNA is replicated. G2 phase, cell growth continues. And then what happens? The enzymes and other proteins are synthesized and replication of centrosomes is completed. So you see here, there was the replication of the centrosomes. Then S phase, DNA is replicated. G2 phase, cell growth is continuing, and then replication of centrosomes now is done. It started in G1, but it's done in G2. Then after the growth and the replication is complete, then comes the other stages in the cell cycle, which is the prophase, the metaphase, the anaphase, and the telophase. These are the mitotic phase. You see, it's the mitotic phase. Over there, it's the interphase, the other colors. Mitotic phase is just here in the yellow part. Let me draw that piece of the pie over here. You see how small the mitotic phase is. Everything else here is the interphase. It's part of the interphase. There. So you see, you understand that. And that's what happens. The product of the mitotic phase is the cell enters the mitotic phase like this, but it exits from telophase, whereby now there are two cells that have formed. So if, let's say, you had two cells entering, it means at the end, you would have 4 because you have 1, 2, and then the other 2 are resulting from this one. So it will always double. That is what's happening. During mitosis, it will double. This one forms 2, that one forms 2. Then at the end, you'll have 4. So remember though, sometimes they usually try and trick you in exams and tests whereby you might be asked such things. Then you will need to always remember that. Remember what happens. It's from one cell, there will be 2 daughter cells. So don't get confused if you are asked, what happens if you have 5 cells? Then it will double. From each cell, it's 2. Each cell, it's 2. Each cell, it's 2. Ne? But don't worry, it's still too early to panic. We'll do it step by step by step by step. Now, the interphase, we are just discussing the interphase on its own. This is the longest phase of the cell cycle. The diagram proves it. You see here, it is a very long stage. It's taking up most part of this pie over here. It's taking up most of it. You see the G phase, you see it's taking G1 phase, takes 8 to 10 hours. Interphase takes 6 to 8 hours. G2 phase takes 4 to 6 hours. That's a lot of time whereby it's happening. And then you see here with G0, this is when the cell is coming from G1, but it's exiting from the cell cycle whereby the cell is non-dividing. And we will discuss these cells that leave the cycle without going through the other steps whereby they didn't divide. We'll discuss those ones as well. So interphase now, the first one, remember 2 stages in the cell cycle, there's the interphase and the mitotic phase. Interphase is the longest phase of the cell cycle. So when you play Kahoots or even in your test and I ask you, which one is the longest phase in the cell cycle? You should be able to remember that it is interphase. During this phase, the cell grows to its maximum size, performs its normal cellular functions, replicates its DNA, and prepares for cell division. So it does all of these. It grows to the maximum size, it's growing, performs normal cell conditions, functions, then the replication happens as it's preparing for cell division. This stage is divided into 3 parts. So whenever you see G1, G2, and S phase, you know we are speaking of the interphase because it has 3 parts, G1, G2, and S phase. And I've showed you here, G1, G2, S phase. Those are the 3 parts of the interphase. It's important to note, some cells no longer need to divide and exit the cell cycle. These cells may exit the cell cycle permanently. These cells, which ones are we talking about? The neurons, just an example of those cells. Or they may exit the cell cycle temporarily. And these cells are said to be in G0. G0 is not a stage of the cell cycle this year. So this example I said I'll mention, it's those cells that can leave the cell permanently without having to divide, or they leave temporarily. They are in the G0 phase because they do not need to divide and go through those processes of cell division. These ones leave in their whole form. So these are examples of neurons. They leave just like that. And G0 is not part of the interphase. It's not part of the cell cycle. So it's not listed there. It's just on the side. And then note again, in cells without a nucleus, remember the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells is that prokaryotic cells do not have what? A nucleus. So when we speak of those ones, it's the prokaryotic cells where they have no nucleus. There are many copies of the DNA floating around the whole cell. In this one, there are many copies just floating around the whole cell because they are not confined to the nucleus. This is a eukaryotic cell where you have a nucleus and your cells, the cell division occurs in this nucleus. In prokaryotic cells, it would just be floating around everywhere. And that's why it's possible and it's easy enough that the cell can just divide during binary fission because its cells are just everywhere. But in eukaryotic organisms, it wouldn't be possible for just the binary fission to take place because these cells that need to divide are there. All the genetic information is there. The copies of DNA are placed in one space, unlike here where they are floating around. The prokaryotic cell occurs through a process termed binary fission. It's what I explained to you. With one daughter cell, it divides. Then you've got 2. When one mother cell, it's a mother cell that divides, and then you've got 2 cells that form. In cells with a nucleus, those are the eukaryotes. All the DNA is inside the nucleus, and so a more complicated cell cycle is required for replication. It's what I just explained because DNA is in the nucleus. So we need more complicated processes for cell division or for the cell cycle, unlike that one where it happens via binary fusion. Hello, Mo. Welcome to Life Sciences. You are welcome. You are most welcome to join us. It's about time. Ne? We are discussing cell division today. But for all other lessons you may have missed, go through YouTube, go search for Africa Teen Geeks, and then search, you'll see the videos from Life Sciences Grade 10, and you can watch all the other topics you may have missed. But welcome, it's nice to have you here. We hope you can feel free and feel at home and communicate with us as much as possible. Welcome more everyone. Okay guys, is that clear? Did you understand it? Ne? That's the difference between the prokaryotic cells and the eukaryotic cells when it comes to cell division. Now, we said there are 3 stages in the 3 steps in the interphase, which is the G1, G2, and S phase. G1 phase occurs just after the 2 daughter cells have split and the cells have only 1 copy of their DNA. Cells in this stage synthesize proteins and increase in size. Then cells can remain in this stage for a long time. Let's go to the diagram. See, G1 takes the longest, 8 to 10 hours, whereas the others take less than 8 hours. So that's why it can take a long time. Remember, it's a cycle, guys. After the cell divides, it will form those 2. You see, remember, it's this one, ne? The mother cell. It will form what? 2 daughter cells. But these 2 daughter cells there as well, they have that DNA, which is still too small as well. It will still need to grow and replicate and all of those processes. So it's a cycle in that way that even after the cell division, now you've formed the 2 daughter cells. Those same 2 daughter cells will go through the same process that their mother went through until they are grown as well. And then when they are grown, then they will also go through the process of cell division. And the cycle continues. That's why it's called cycle, because it will just not stop. That's what happens. We are in the cycle of life as well. Your parents gave birth to you, you are here. One day you will also be an adult, you'll give birth if you want kids. If not, then that's still another way. But still, it's just the cycle of life. You wake up, it's morning, it's nighttime, you eat, you work or whatever, but it's just a cycle. Really, nothing is changing, except probably what you do with your own life, but it's really just a cycle that is just taking place like that. Then it can take a long time. And then the S phase. This is the stage during which DNA replication occurs. Now the cell has grown. Now it will undergo DNA replication. The cell makes an identical copy of each of its chromosomes. It will now make identical copies. That's the process of replication. Ne? It's a replica, it's forming replicas of each chromosome. Chromosomes are found inside the nucleus of the cell and consist of long strands of DNA that contain the genetic information of the cell. I'll show you diagrams of these things, don't worry. Then G2 phase, it occurs after the DNA has been duplicated in S phase. During this phase, the cell may continue to grow and undergo normal cellular functions. Towards the end of this phase, the cell will start to replicate its organelles in preparation for mitosis. So which one comes first? It's G1, it's S phase, then it's G2. After G2, it's entering then the mitotic phase, also called the M phase. So you see the steps G1, S, G2. That's the order. These here, they account for approximately 90% of the cell cycle, with the other 10% being taken up by mitosis. And it makes sense. In interphase, they're like, you see, it takes very long. Like there with mitosis, it's just a quick process taking about 10%. Okay, Mo is asking about the assignments. We don't have any assignment yet, Mo, but next week on the 29th, we are writing an assessment. Yes, you do an assessment offline. I'm not sure when it will be available actually, but it should be uploaded online. So check maybe on the day. It should be written on the 29th. And please do time yourself when you write it. We've indicated on the paper that it will take 2 hours, 30 minutes. That work will be based on term 1 and term 2. So it's almost like your June exam. You know how in June exam you'll be writing based on term 1 and term 2. So yes, that work will be based on term 1 and term 2. So go through work. I'm guessing you've been attending since term 2. In term 1, you attended it in your normal schools, right? When you were still going to school. But term 2, if those were attending online, then great news. But those who were not, you can go through the YouTube videos or go through your study material to go through term 2's work. But either way, even if you were not attending this school at that time, it's okay. You'll just test yourself and see what you know, what you don't know, so you can prepare yourself better. So that work will be based on term 1 and term 2, the whole curriculum that is being tested. And then for term 3, it will be tested at a later stage. But I know you'll be more prepared for term 3 because you see, even the Kahoot games we play, they prepare you for tests because you see, it's really a test. It's just that it's a fun setup where it's more competitive, but it's also a test. So I will continue doing Kahoot games with you guys just to prepare you for the normal test that you'll be writing. So I will set it up, mostly the questions and how I phrase them, it would be similar. It's just that when you write the test now on paper, it will be more in depth and I'll probably ask you to draw or label things, which I can't do on Kahoot. But we'll find a way to make that possible. But for next week, that's why I said Monday and Tuesday, we will do revision together on the work that will be covered in the assessment. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, yes, because you're writing on the 29th. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we will do revision. Then Thursday and Friday, we will do the memorandum of that work. So at least you can have an idea of what to expect in the assessment. But just a hint, go through the work on the Siyavula grade 10 life sciences book. It will help you. You'll be very prepared for the test if you go through all of that work that is supposed to be covered for term 1 and term 2. Also, guys, I want to know, do you know what topics you are supposed to be covering, or you are just studying because we are teaching you? Are you following? Do you know? There was a revised annual teaching plan that was provided by the government on what we need to be teaching you now. So get yourself familiar with that so that you can also prepare yourself, so that you know what you think that you need to know, things that you, it's ATP, it's the annual teaching plan. When I give you a hint, I'll say that. You get it from the Department of Education's website. Let me share. Let's go together. See my screen? Department of Education. You are following, right? I went to Department of Education. You click on the website. Then where is the ATP, Gondre? Let me go check down there. There, you see here, ATP's mediation and content plans over there. But your teachers would know, like we know, we are following this as well. We're not just doing things because we feel like it. We're following the curriculum. So there, you find ATP mediation for all these subjects that you do. All of them are here. So you can check for all grades. So you can see there is life sciences. You go through it. I'm opening it for you. You can go through it and then you'll see what topics we need to study. Because we are on term 3, the ATP states that now we need to be studying term 3's work on cell division. So we are according to that schedule. Ne? So don't worry, we are really teaching everything as we should be teaching you. But did you see, were you able to follow that as I was showing you? You followed, right? You can be able to go search it for yourself. It's just the Department of Education. Go to the website and then go down there. You'll find them. That will help you also with the other subjects, maybe subjects that we don't offer on this school. For these ones, you can relax because we are going according to the curriculum. For the subjects we do not offer in the school, in the digital school, then you can go check the ATP and see what you should be studying, how to prepare yourself. I need you to remember that even though it's locked down, you will still be tested on these things. Others have been moved over to next year, yes. But you are going to a very critical phase next year, which is grade 11. You know that when you start applying in varsity, when you want to be accepted early, before you even finish your matric exams, they will require your grade 11 marks. Ne? So that's why you need to take your lives and yourselves very, very seriously. You are approaching grade 12. So you start preparing yourselves now. It will be very easy to get through grade 11 and grade 12 when you were very prepared in grade 10. So don't take these things lightly. It's your lives after all. You need to plan for your life. You need to plan for whatever course you want to do in university. Or if you don't want to go to university, just have a plan for your life. But prepare yourselves always. You don't want to be caught off guard because you didn't prepare. Yeah, guys. So tomorrow we'll start with the mitotic phase. Ne? Are you okay? Any questions? All right, tomorrow mitotic phase, and then we will, mitotic phase. We will, I don't know when, I'll tell you the next time we do Kahoots. Right now, I want us to focus on next week assessments from Monday. So I want us to cover we finish this mitotic phase tomorrow at least. Here are the books I accessed. Like I said, go to this book online, Siavula Grade 10 Life Sciences textbook. You'll find it online for free. For other textbooks, you'll find them on the Snaplify app for those who probably forgot it at school or what, or you don't have a textbook, or you've lost it. Go to the Snaplify app, you can get access to these textbooks and you're getting them for free. You can even use them offline. You just need to download it. After you've downloaded it, you can access it when you're offline as well. So that's good for you. All right, guys. I'm done now. If there are no questions, then we can go. Thank you so much, everyone. See you tomorrow. Take care of yourself. Bye.